Rise up, GG Nation, cause it's time for Guidance Guy Friday, your weekly guidance lesson from your internet school counselor. And can I be real with you right now? Sometimes it feels good to be bad. And if there's any group that embodies the idea of, come on, be evil, it's fun, it's Disney villains with diabolical rogues like Scar, Ursula, and Cruella de Vil. They have the ability to make you fear them, hate them, but at the same time, you secretly like them. But I got a bone to pick with one of these legends, someone who shows up in all the marketing for this wretched hive of scum and villainy, the mistress of all evil herself, Maleficent. And I gotta say, nah, she ain't it, fam. Miss Mal is nothing more than an overrated petty excuse for a bad guy. Yeah, I said it, and I'ma prove it too. You ready for your 4 reasons Maleficent stands? Cause it's guidance time.
Maleficent.
Listen, I never got the hype for Miss Dragon Fairy here. Yeah, the House of Mouse has given her goat status as a baddie. Sure, her Animorph transform into a dragon thing is legit cool. And if you don't know what an Animorph is, ask your millennial teacher or go to the media center and educate yourself.
Educate yourself!
And even outside of Disney and games like Kingdom Hearts, she's set up as the gold standard of skullduggery. But why though? Let's check out her resume to see if her actions really warrant the rep. And spoilers for Sleeping Beauty, I guess. Listen, even if you didn't see this film, you know what happens. It's not even an A-tier Disney movie. Sorry, SP fans, but if the main character of her own story is taking a nap for a third of it, then I'ma stick to my Lion King, thank you very much. Let's start with the Horned One's first appearance in Sleeping Beauty, at the event that kicks off the whole movie. Homegirl shows up at a party celebrating the new princess, clearly isn't wanted by anyone in attendance, goes on about how much she mustn't have gotten her invite, only to be told to her face that she wasn't invited at all. Sure, she's all sarcastic about it, but come on now, you can't call yourself the mistress of all evil and then get all passive-aggressively sassy when people don't want you around them. BT dubs, some of you should be taking notes. Don't act like you're the baddest on the streets and then get all sad when you ain't got no friends. And there's reason 1, she doesn't have the greatest self-awareness. She can't own up to the fact that there are consequences for being the bad guy. But then she exposes herself even further by what she does next, so she's all butthurt about being ghosted to this shindig. Her response? She curses Princess Aurora, not to die a horrible death. She doesn't just end her right there and then, but she gives her the most convoluted death of all time. Death by spinning wheel? On her 16th birthday? And this is your mistress of malevolence? Your duchess of destruction? Miss me with that. If she was truly evil, she would have ended baby girl right there and then, and if she wanted to prolong the suffering, she'd put a curse on the king and queen to make sure they kick the bucket in a couple weeks so she could take the throne and become the true empress of evil. Now, I don't know what this says about me coming up with this dastardly scheme, but it is what it is. And with that, we got reasons 2 and 3. Maleficent is not only petty for getting her fifis hurt, she really doesn't think things through. She didn't think that the Powerpuff Fairies would try to mess up her plan, or that giving Aurora's parents 16 years to thwart her operation is about, 16 years too many? Let's be real, GG Nation. Maleficent's reputation as an S-tier baddie is mostly based on vibes. Sure, she's got the look, the chilling voice, and the fact that her pet bird is named after the literal devil? She's coasting harder than a gifted kid on a standardized test. But beneath all the magic and the dragon form, all I see is a petty, vengeful, and kinda impulsive chick who's mean pretty much for the fun of it. And I haven't even gotten to reason 4 yet. It's time we face the truth about Miss Mal. She ain't no villain. She's just a bully.
You poor simple fools, thinking you could defeat me, the mistress of all evil.
Alright, I had my fun. Time for me to stop downing the haterade and put on my counselor hat. And while I do, go ahead and put a spell on that subscribe button and put that like button to sleep. But for me, when I see someone who is willing to cause pain to others, the first question I have for them is, who hurt you? There's a saying that's become popular these days that goes, hurt people hurt people. In other words, the only kind of person who would willingly cause distress to others is someone who is already distressed and in pain. And it's here where we need to take another look at Maleficent. Now, the OG story of Sleeping Beauty doesn't give Mal any sort of backstory. She just shows up, says,
I'm the bad guy. Duh.
And then spends the rest of the movie being said bad guy. But if we look at the 2014 Sleeping Beauty remake named after the so-called Mistress of All Evil, we start to get some answers as to how she turned out the way she did. And the truth is, Maleficent wasn't born evil. She was a strong, kind and compassionate fairy, with giant bald eagle wings to boot. But
Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
the fairies and other magical creatures were at war with the humans, and the king declares that anyone who ends Maleficent can marry his daughter, effectively becoming prince. A young man named Stefan takes on the challenge, finds Maleficent, puts on the Riz, and then puts her to sleep with a magic potion and then cuts her wings off because he couldn't bring himself to fully commit to the assassin bit. Now, here's the truth bomb. Stefan and Mal were best friends growing up. And Stefan, he eventually grows up to become king and Aurora's father. So we have someone who's on one hand a petty bully, but also someone who was betrayed by a close friend and stripped of her ability to fly, all because of that same friend's thirst for power. Kinda changes the equation, doesn't it? Mal is no longer just evil for evil's sake, but a deeply hurt and traumatized person lashing out at the very people who ruined her life. And that's reason 4. Mal isn't really evil as much as she just has emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Now, I will say this. Her trauma does not excuse her actions. Aurora had nothing to do with Maleficent's beef with King Stefan, and if anything, she may have used Aurora as an excuse to mess with her ex-BFF. She didn't have to become evil, but we now see why she chose that path. And actually, this all comes back around to bullying when you think about it.
Thou sword of truth, fly swift and sure, that evil die and good endure.
When you take away the cool powers and the dark aura that Maleficent carries around, all you have left is a broken person who's taking her own pain out on everybody else. And in my work, no matter what school I'm at, I see the same thing. Bullies who make other people's lives miserable are themselves miserable and are just trying to spread it around. And I want that to be our first takeaway. Bullies are broken people. They aren't evil supervillains bent on world domination. They're just hurt people who hurt people. Again, this doesn't make their actions okay in the slightest. I say this to make my second point. Bullies are nothing without fear. Maleficent seems so unstoppable, so invincible because the people around her feared her. And that's everyone. Even the king, the queen, and the good fairies shuddered at her name. But then came Prince Philip, Aurora's hero and savior of the kingdom. He took Maleficent on without the fear that everyone else had for her. And look what happened. One shot. Remember, bullies only have as much power as you give them. But the second you stand up to them, by either talking to a teacher, dean, or counselor, or just confronting the bully themselves, they quickly turn into the paper tiger they always were. Maleficent is an excellent example of a bully, ruling by fear and impulse. But the second someone says enough and takes them on fearlessly, victory is just around the corner.
Sesame Street was brought to you today by the
Welcome back to the Character Corner, where our talk on decision making continues. And when it comes to bullying, we all have a choice to make. If you're the bully, are you going to continue the cycle of humiliation and pain? For the victim, will you continue to let that cycle of pain and humiliation keep you in fear? And for everyone else who sees bullying happening around them, are you going to continue to pretend that it isn't happening? Us in schools often make the mistake of thinking that the way to stop bullying is just to stop the bullying. Yeah, it helps, but harassment doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are always witnesses, people who can do something, say something. Even in the case of Sleeping Beauty, Aurora's parents didn't sit on their hands and do nothing. They made a choice and created a plan to stop Maleficent. A really stupid plan, but the point is, they did something. And I don't say this to shame anybody. I say this to empower those involved with bullying that the power does not lie with the bully, but with you. No, you can't make them change, but you can help make it harder for them to torment others. You can be the person that leads to consequences and safety for the victims. We make thousands of choices every single day. Let's make sure we make decisions that give power to those who need it, and take power away from those who abuse it. But before you go, did you know that Simba and Scar from The Lion King are pretty much the same character? Go click on this link to find out how.